This is a fun video with some ideas that I came up with about Genesis since yesterday that I wanted to talk about. That this always happens. You put down a video and go, I don't know what this is right here, but here's what I see going on. And then the next day you're like, oh, now I see what they're doing. I don't know why. It just works that way. And that's what just happened here. And it has to do with a couple of things in that addition, the Great Flood story, the part that matches the first creation story, the part with the 7 pairs in it. Remember yesterday, or on the last video, I was saying that it looks strange right in the beginning of when they introduced the 7s in the first creation story, that it was 3 times right here. And on the 7th day, God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it. And I don't know if it means anything, but if you come down here, you will see that the number 7 pairs are used 3 times. 7 pairs of clean, 7 pairs of birds. 7 days will return. Okay, so what we want here, when you look at this, I was looking at it going, I'm not sure what the animals are, but we know that analogously, animals represent something that comes from our physical existence. It's what we produce. The birds of the air, that's what we think. That's what we believe. That's what goes on in our heads. And we start off with just very, very clean and clear on that stuff. But over time, over life, that all gets clogged up. And that's what this is about, trying to go in and remove all of that. The flood is. But what is happening here is bigger. 7 pairs of all clean animals. That means a pair of clean animals. Those are good qualities, good characteristics. Bring those ready to go. The male and its mate, so the duality, and a pair of the animals that are not clean, and a male and its mate. What is the unclean? Okay, this is what is going to happen here. The flood story is not standalone. The flood story was standalone in the Atrahasis, Babylonian. I'll have to get back. I don't recall that one. I'll leave that out. But in this case, here's what's happening. The network starts. There's this pathway that we're going to be taking. These stories are going to go from place to place to place, going through the culture, but they're being built on this template. And it's taking analogous and the people, the things that are happening in their time at that time and place, whoever their enemy is, whoever they're defeating, whatever cities they're burning down, and it's using those on the template. They look real. It works in the population, and today we look at it and go, wow, those must have really happened because, look, those places were burned. Yeah, they're building the story at that time. That's what's real is the template when you see it. You understand that it's a created story. But what is going to happen when you think about it, the human, we have something to deal with. You have to go resolve this issue. It's tough. You know, I got a lot of things that I really don't want to deal with. And if you start dealing with them, you find out that the first one comes off, you feel so good, you feel enlightened, incredibly so, just getting something resolved that you've been carrying forever. But as time goes on, you begin to realize, okay, there's something else coming up. It wasn't as big, but now that I've adjusted, it feels as big now to me as that other one did before, because now I feel a little bit different. I have to go take this path again. What they're doing here is they're making sure that the bad qualities are fresh and ready to go. You come out the other side, you've taken care of something. Life starts over. It goes good. It goes bad. This is going to be complex versions of Cain and Abel on a bigger scale. Continual splitting. And then the story's building off of that again happening. I believe that's what's going on. And the reason they're sending the unclean ones is for that reason. Because you're going to fail again. There's other things that are going to come up. There are other things that haven't been resolved. So this network is going to be like going along the path. If you go to Hinduism, there is a reincarnation. You come back again and again to wash things off. There are people who think that is physically what happens. There are people who understand that when you play it out in the psyche, this means going in over and over again. It's like another network version or something like that. Okay, something else, and I trap myself with this one. I have to continually remember that Genesis is not the beginning of this material. That there is stuff that precedes Genesis that are not in the Bible, that were not that we're not making it into the final version of what Judaism was going to become. That there's previous material. So sevens, sevenfold, things like that. They probably have their roots farther upstream. The Bible is not as far upstream as Jewish material goes. So there's actually other places that I haven't gone yet that would probably explain things. And that's something else to consider. Also, what we see here is 40 being introduced in that. We see the sevens. We also see the 40 right there. And the 40 is going to feature very prevalently. We're going to see 40 years in the desert, 40 days and nights that it rains, 40... That's what happens right here. The rain, 40 days and 40 nights. And we're going in to purge. So this is going to be the idea that we're going to be going in and cleaning the time it takes to resolve an issue or something like that. It's an indicator that we're turning inward and going in. Okay, what else? I pondered that word unclean again, realizing that it does appear in the Bible, and we know eventually what it means is things that you're not supposed to eat. You don't consume them, and spiritually, that means these are the things that you stay away from. That's not the life you want out there. Don't consume that. You want to eat good things, not bad things. The diet functions very well as an analog in this case. Dainty meats are, wrong stuff. By the time we get down to Jesus' teaching in 1,500 years or so, it's going to be fish and loaves is what we want to eat. That'll be the good stuff. Okay, and so while that is part of the teaching, my point here was that later... imagine writing a story and then telling somebody that they need to do something, but not explaining why. Introducing a concept that people would be reading and going, "What does that have to do with anything?" Because this is added in. This actually is another reason that I think, it's obviously added in, because nowhere previous to this in the Bible does it talk about unclean meats. So why would they say to bring unclean animals or unclean pairs of animals or anything at this point when they've never told us what unclean is? That's going to come about later. They're setting up what is going to happen later on. You can see they got these are puzzle pieces. Dissect them and it emerges. But they're purposeful. That's the reason why people can't find them, because they don't realize perhaps that they are psychologically purposeful. It's almost, you almost have to take the path or be very close to, somehow connected in a way that you can see what this template is and how it plays out in the psyche. That transition is something I think most people can't make. Okay, what else? So, the sevens are being introduced. It looks like there's 3. Is that right? Did they link it that simply? I don't know, but it's there. The sevens are there. It says 3 times in creation, and then it appears 3 times there. Something that's happening as I'm talking about this is that more is emerging. I'm seeing more. Look at this, actually. Maybe I'm very much a skeptic of what I come up with always. I don't want to proceed unless I'm very confident with something. So just matching up 3 and 3 is like, well, that could be a coincidence. That's pretty easy. And there are stronger things to match up. But if you look at it, it's it's telling us to take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals. So clean animals, 7 pairs. 7 pairs is going to represent that point in time where they are clean, where our character's qualities, whatever that is, the male and its mate, and a pair of the animals that are not clean. Of course, they wouldn't have a 7 attached, would they? They are not pure. 7 parts of the birds of the air, so the thoughts, the physical, and all of the physical and mental qualities that we need to leave behind. For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth for 40 days. The 7 days right there is 7 days is creation right there. That's the point in time where purity is. You know what it looks like? It almost just lines up like it's going to smack you in the head and say, "Duh, it's that pretty simple." But is it? Am I doing that, putting things into it where it's like, hey, look at this, could be this good? I'm sure that other people can come up with other answers. I'm just looking for patterns. I'm looking for similarities and going, you know what, that can fit. Is it right? I don't know. And it also tells you unclean things. It tells you 40. There's things that are being introduced there that definitely are important for the search that were not in the original story. There's also side stories that existed at that time, Enoch and all the other things, a lot of non-canonical stuff that all worked with this template, that all function that way. But they went too crazy. It's like, oh, we can't do that on a religion. That stuff is not okay. We're going to narrow it down to this right here. They've shut out some of that storytelling network because it doesn't fit. It shows that it's a network. It makes it too obvious, I think, that it's a network. The religion itself, though, as you get into the Bible, it's built on network after network of this, but it's hard to see playing it out inside. I want to talk about something. 7 is being introduced right here in the beginning in this material, and we talk about that. I want to show a parallel correlation with Buddha from the Dhammapada. Right in the the Dhammapada is a short collection of verses. It's not Buddhism itself, it's just here. Short collection of what Buddha has to say. And what it contains as you analyze it is every step to turn inward, where you came from, how you came about. It is the same patterned material held in a different way. So watch this. If you follow my work, you know that I believe that 7 is very specifically being used to identify a point in time in the human existence where we are conscious, happy, we are not hurt yet. We have not been experiencing life. We're good. Everything is okay. It begins to decay after that. That is the part of the template, part of creation. I'm going to just use the Dhammapada right here, and this is, I don't know if you can see that. This is verse 1 and verse 2 right on the first page. This is right in the beginning of it, and it's dual verses. I'm going to read number 2. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. That's a lot prettier than 7, isn't it? But it's the same place. We have pure minds, happiness is there, and it doesn't leave. We are in the garden, naked, unashamed. Conceptually, when you play them out in the psyche, they're exactly the same thing. We're a product of our thoughts. What's the first one in here? All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. Quite honestly, this is how obscure it gets, but this is what we can unpack from this first couple of verses from Buddha. First of all, it's dual verses, both of them telling us all that we are is a result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. Both of them tell us that. So both of them are telling us everything is mental. Everything is mental. And then it's telling us if a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. That is actually first sin and punishment. If you have a bad experience and you leave it in place, it's going to continue to follow you cyclically. As Eve being punished by every time you give birth, it's going to be painful. That whatever emerges out from us is going to be painful. But then down here, it's telling us if we act with a pure thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. So having a pure and empty, all of that, we're not connected, then everything is fine. So it's showing us duality. It is showing us that everything is mental. It is showing us that if we have evil thoughts, that it's going to continue to emerge after us. And if we clear all out, that we're going to have happiness like a shadow that never leaves. Right there. Analyze the hell out of them. They all work exactly that same way. I don't want to bring in other verses too many from other places, but I'll do a different one on that. I'm going to do some Jesus verses because I had a question from somebody about some of the Gospels, about going through and looking at things. And I've got some ideas on that, and I haven't worked on the Gospels very much because I realized at some point I wanted to go farther and farther upstream. And Genesis was just it's a foundational, holy smokes. it's a very critical book. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to find the template in that thing. That's, yeah. Anyway, so I'm there, but I realize there's more to it. The more I dig into it and learn, the more I see that there's stuff there's more out there. Well, I just wanted to talk about that. Just between yesterday and today, I got some ideas on Genesis, on the addition of the story, that especially what they're doing with the the creation story, because they're transitioning right there from the creation myth to the first monomyth. So they're setting up here, bring this with you when you go. You're going to emerge on the other side, and you're going to need all that stuff that you had in the beginning. That's what they're doing. And that there's going to be bad stuff there as well as good stuff. It's going to start over again. Read the stories and take the trip. It's hard. Some of the things, like if you're destroying temples, the temple is up here. If you're, bringing down towers, that's up here. All of the things that they're using analogs from their culture and making it sound like that really happened. The Babylonians are not creating ziggurats to God. They are creating their temples like anybody would. But then you take Jewish material who wants to distance themselves from them and is actually using the same template in their material to reframe things, who creates them as the enemies. They're part of, they're the bad people that were, trying to reach God, sinful, perhaps. I'm not sure how that whole thing unwraps. I don't know the history of it. I may have said that incorrectly, but, they just use things like that. If you're burning down a city, tearing down walls, doing something like that, it's going to be somebody that's called, and each one of those is going to represent that point of going back and destroying something else. They're another version of a flood story. I added this in. It starts right off in the Garden of Eden, where you can take from the tree of there's two trees there, a good one and a bad one. We partake of the bad one. We don't partake of the good one. We leave the good one behind, the one of life, the tree of life. And we eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what happens, what we can visualize here, is that you start off in life and you start beginning to have physical world experiences that you didn't have before, and you're starting to look at things that you never saw. You're starting to see people hurt people steal, people doing things, and you're getting involved in it. Life is such that you're now in school, you're in groups, you are beginning to attach. That wherever we are from and whatever our basic networking from home is and all of that, it becomes who and what we are. When we start out in life, it's very simple. As we get older and older, pretty soon we've accumulated so much stuff. That right there is going to be what we're going after to destroy. And it's held inside of you. You might be going to get your land back, which means you don't have access to your mind. You might be going to destroy a temple because it is the bad temple. You might be, tearing down the walls of something because those walls are what is holding all of the issues inside of you. They're rich stories that are all going to play out up here in that manner. Those are not different things unless you're looking outward. When you look inward, they're just simply shifting the analogs to carry that same template. Do you see that? It's hard. It's hard at first until you make the transition up here. Then you go, okay, now I see it. Yeah, I see that's a destruction. That's a destruction. There's a calling. There's a calling. Oh, there's cycles happening. There's cycles happening. Pretty soon you begin spotting those things. Oh, there's seeds emerging from itself. There it is. Oh, there's somebody being trapped somehow and put away that is now rendered ineffective. Those will emerge conceptually up here. Each time there is something happening that's being destroyed, what is that being destroyed? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it being conquered by the chosen one? The chosen one is when we decide we are the ones that are chosen. That's the chosen one. God chooses you. It's the higher being. It's you saying to yourself, I'm not living my physical life anymore. I got to get out of my consciousness. My head has got me frazzled. Help. And your higher being goes, hey, I'm still here. Now you're talking to God. That's tough. People hear that and they think, you sacrilegious. And it sounds that way to them. It fits with everything else out there. God's just another analog. It's difficult to distance ourselves sometimes from the way we feel about the material. We have to become equal with it. We have to understand there's something in there that is not an emotional, fear-based teaching. There's something inside of there. And the vast majority of the population is going to carry it and not see inside. The ark. Many are called, few are chosen. Many stand outside the narrow gate where the The roads outward are many and lead to destruction. Few will enter in the narrow gate. Rumi, I've been living on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reasons, knocking on a door that opens. I've been knocking from the inside. We grab this material and take it inside. The smaller verses are easier to work with to transition first, because in these stories, every bit of them plays out in the psyche too. All of the people are component parts of you. They're just slicing you up. Here's your old self. Here's your new self. Here's the two parts that argue with you. Here's the part that likes to do this. There's the part that likes to do that. Here's the part of you that's honest when it's honest, but now it's not so much anymore. All of those are getting classified as somehow part of the story as a name. And the people that are along the way are just later iterations of you. And the bad things are earlier iterations of you. All of it plays out up here in a society that is intelligent, and this is their media. Word of mouth. Nobody reads or writes. A handful of people. The vast majority of the population, it's not a part of culture yet. You got to handwrite books. You got to make paper and store it in rocks. No, they've got jars and things. Yeah, but I think the stories are. We can't look at them the way we look at them. We're not getting it. There's something big in there. Somebody put something in there. A lot of people did. This was once big. I think perhaps one of the worst biases we can have is just being having lifestyles today that are so packed with things. We have media. We see what's going on around the world, next door, down the street. We connect to the neighborhood. There's so much that we do and see and know and get exposed to. Back then, it wouldn't be that way. You would have the stories or communications, period. You're only hearing things word of mouth. How much time do we spend today doing things connected with media, reading, watching television, doing something? They would go to work. They would talk. It would be a very simple life. None of that would be in place. These stories, I think it's hard for us to see how important it would be and how complex. People have time to do this. People back there they're intelligent people. They built something for a reason. Do you know there's another weird thing I want to throw out here? I just want to float this out before I end the video. This is random in the end. The Jews are looking for what? They left the Garden of Eden. In the beginning, the Garden of Eden was left behind. And you look for Canaan, the Holy Land. There is something I want to say. This is a weird one to bring into it, but Plato in the city of Atlantis. If you look at that, there's 3 structures. He was more structured, not as much spiritual. It was more like industry, but in the innermost part is spiritual. Everybody gets out of control and it sinks to the bottom of the sea. Does that sound familiar? And it hasn't come back. It fits the template of a flood story. Not necessarily, it doesn't have all the elements of creation, I don't think. Well, maybe it does. I haven't looked at it that closely, but it's a very simple story. But in the end, it went. It's lost. It's not returned. Is it the same thing? Are we to go on a path at the Atlanteans and find the city of Atlantis? Or go on an adventure with Jason and the Argonauts and find the Golden Fleece? Or take a trip with King Arthur? We're looking for the chalice, the Holy Grail. Looking for Nirvana, looking for the kingdom of heaven within. All of them have goals. And all of those goals are representing the same mental destination. How fun is that? All right. Yeah, go play with that. It's too much. You see, it's, what is it? It's everything. It seems like it. You can tell what isn't. There's some stuff from antiquity, religious material that is not on the template. You can see that it isn't inspired work. It's just about come to church and turn yourself over to God. It didn't maintain the template. So you can tell who knew what they were doing and who didn't. Okay, so now that I found the template, this is the inside of the stories, all religions. This is the inside. This is from the perspective of the Creator. We found the inside by finding the similarities, reverse engineering what they're doing. Alrighty, well, that's it for this video. Yeah, things came to me. That's it. It's not ending at the end of the flood. It's going to continue on. They're just making sure everything makes it over the threshold. All right. It's that simple. But they know what they're doing. We see. All right. Hope this was fun, and hope it's helpful if you're seeking on your own. Feel free to ask questions and post comments. Love one another. I'll see you in the next video.